we return to the subject of Doomsaw. So, Galamsey, I beg your pardon. Our relentless fight against Galamsey, illegal mining. My guest tonight is Darrell Bosu, who is the Deputy Director of Operations at ROCHA Ghana, a conservation NGO, which has, together with other bodies, been at the forefront of the fight against Galamsey. Of course, the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining, and all of those groups, including the media, have been waging the fight to get the canker out of our system and reclaim our forests and get our water bodies to regenerate. Darrell is in the studio now. Hello, Darrell. Good evening. Welcome to Point Blank.
Good evening, sir.
How have you been doing?
Yeah, very well. How about you?
We're just good. So this thing about Galamsey, I mean, where are we? Are we doing better? Is it getting worse? Are we at the same place marking time? Where are we?
So I think you've asked a very important question, and if you look at what is happening now in our forest reserves, with the miners playing Tom and Jerry with our military, joint military police and forestry commission staff, and if you also look at how some of the miners are still out there on our rivers, still diverting them and all of that, we cannot but say that the fight is not getting better. We had an opportunity with the change in government, the early days of it, to have really made a very clear statement that, look, we are not going to tolerate any nonsense. We're going to have a zero tolerance for illegal and impunity and all of that. But we were silent. As a result, a lot of people moved into spaces. When the former vice president conceded,
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yes, conceded defeat to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, right after that, he realized that the country was practically under no leadership. The politicians, the elites, those at the top were going through a transition, and nobody was paying attention to what was going on the ground. And the police were also kind of like, everybody was watching them because they were also waiting for the transition to happen. But whilst that was happening, the miners also moved into spaces. And that is where people now started thinking that, look, if we have lost, others are going to come. Let's find ways to protect our turf. And this is where we had all these stacks coming in, some going to take over forest reserves and all that. So since then, it's never gotten better. And unfortunately, the government of the day, yes, they are new, but I don't want us to give them that grace period because they have been with us. They've had 8 years. And in the lead up to the election, we saw how they themselves were with all of us on the streets, everywhere, talking about the need to protect our forest reserves. Everybody was really on the previous administration that the government must do better than they were doing already. But all of a sudden, it's as if they are clueless. They don't know what to do. And if you listen to some of the strategy they are putting forward, then you ask yourself, wait, did they really have a strategy before they took office? And I'm sad to say that, look, if you go to the ground, everybody, if you talk to the officers, the state agencies, the actors, the officers on the ground, talk to community people, they tell you that it's gotten worse. And they are not seeing any reprieve in the very short term. So I think that is a problem we are confronted with.
So what is the problem? There should be a real problem why successive governments have failed to deal with this problem. Because, in the last regime, Labour, everybody were all in one voice calling for, certain things to be done. Now there's a new government, and the action that a lot of people were expecting on this front, we're not actually seeing them. What do you think is the problem? Why can't governments or politicians deal with the problem once and for all?
You see, this question, I think everybody by now knows that the major problem we are confronted with is also corruption within the political class. they know that mining is now becoming possibly the potential source for funding for a lot of the things that they do. Even for the elections, we know about all the news about people's the party politics, everything being funded by revenues from this particular illegal activity. We know of the situation in the previous administration where, it wasn't hidden. Party Nyesika.
Yeah.
And it has not changed. There's a new government around. They are also thinking about the money. They're also thinking about how do we appease our people, make our people happy. I've heard people say that, look, we're in opposition for 8 years. We are hungry. So allow us to feed until you really get onto the ground and do something about Galamsey. So I think there is some deliberate political negligence or pretending that they don't know what to do so that their people can have the opportunity to feed, as they say. So that is what the problem is. And because that is there, almost every structure or every action or mechanism they need to put in place, they are watering it down. So you don't really get to see the full effect of, for example, let's send the police out or the military out there. Why should it be that there's a forest reserve? You say there are a lot of illegal miners there. Tax. You send joint police, military, and forestry commission people to go there. You clear the forest. Immediately the team gets to Accra, another batch goes there. And then you ask yourself, wait, where is the intelligence service? It's as if we are choosing and picking what exactly we want to. So that is where the problem is. We have not fully deployed our law enforcement, intelligence services, and even our policy, our policy thinking processes to really deal with this. The solutions are very clear. Why is it that we've been talking about state of emergency? A strategy that will nip the impunity of people mining our forest reserves and our rivers in the bad. Somebody will say one touch, but they have just deliberately refused. It's not that we have asked for too much when you say there should be a state of... It's not too much. We are not the first country to see Galamsey in the face as it is. We're even calling these people dangerous terrorists. So how do you treat terrorists? With this kids gloves approach? So there's certainly some deliberate, government, culpability or complicity in not dealing with this matter so their people can feed. And this is against everything they told us before they came to power. Everything they told us.
Recently, we heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister and the Interior Minister that foreigners who are arrested in Galamsey will be deported. And we also read, also from the Interior Minister, that when these foreigners, particularly Chinese, are deported, they are prosecuted in their country. A lot of media and civil society persons were not happy with this approach because why arrest Ghanaians, prosecute them, possibly jail them, but if it's foreigners also doing the same wrong thing, you choose to deport them rather. And when you deport them, our borders are so porous. ChannelOne was deported, but she still found a way back into the country. So the explanation is that we do not think that it would be prudent to spend our resources on the court process, prosecuting these people, and then having them in our jails, being fed and taken care of by the state. Is that tenable? Is that explanation?
I remember the former Minister for Finance, was also Mafo. Yes. He virtually said the same thing. Yes, Senior Minister, yes, sorry. He virtually said the same thing about ChannelOne. We raise hell in this country. When he said, what, do we gain anything from prosecuting ChannelOne? When we can say, we are looking for $2 billion, why should we... It's basically the same excuse this government is giving. And this for us is travesty of justice. You think that your own citizens who are in the pit because they don't have employment, you go after them with everything you've got. And those who are really financing, who have escalated the mining to the level that we are seeing, the impunity of destroying our rivers and forests, you think it's okay to let them go. It's a very sad excuse. And I couldn't have imagined that we'll get to a point with the present administration making some of these flimsy excuses that we don't want to spend the state's resources. Really?
Could it not be that China is such a huge partner to Ghana and Ghana's development, so there is diplomatic pressure which is brought to bear on the Ghanaian authorities? Because it can't just be coincidental that Osafo Mafo gave almost the same excuse and reason for allowing ChannelOne to go, and this new government is almost singing the same tune. could it not be that the Chinese authorities are so powerful diplomatically that, I mean, we are doing it as they've asked us to do?
You see, I mean, what you are describing is our leaders selling us off. We are slaves now because they are selling us cheap. It's as if we don't have our own vision as a country. We only move to, I mean, as they play us, you know, other countries come and make demands and we also move to their tune, and then we don't do anything for ourselves. So for me, I think it's very, even if that is the thing, I don't think China will allow anybody in Ghana to go and do these kind of things in their country and go scot-free. And I think the whole policy directive is also, as you can see, against the law. The new, what I call the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act, 2019, Act 995, was very clear. That if somebody is engaged in illegal activity and is a foreigner, the person is liable to deportation. But before that happens, the person must serve full term or whatever conviction that is really fine on the person. But we don't really work with that. So I think that we as a country, we say we are a country governed by rule of law, but we don't want to respect our own laws. And if we choose when to apply the law, this is where impunity really springs up. And because, see, the reason why we have Galamsey as it is now is because we saw people mining in our rivers. We didn't stop them. We saw people mining in our forests. We didn't stop. What we did rather was that the government decided, oh, let me even pass a law that will allow the state itself to
legitimize it.
Exactly. To allow people to have some access to forest. So the posture there tells people that, look, our government is all for we even going to our forest reserves and mining. So now once you see that Chinese people can be deported, I'm sure more Chinese will come. Before 2016, I remember His Excellency John Dramani Mahama saying that he also deported a lot of foreigners, Chinese people. It didn't solve the problem. Nanodos, the former president's time as well, administration, he also had people, they also did, repatriated a lot of people. It hasn't solved that problem. So it is not a solution. The only solution is to make them face the full rigors of the law. Let them serve their term before you let them go.
Though our prisons are very congested. And
what about the Ghanaians who are wallowing in our prisons? Are they not humans as well?
Should we exacerbate or worsen the situation there? And they are normally, the Chinese are normally a lot. So for example, Muntaka says he's deported over 100 people.
Which is sad.
Since he came.
Which is sad.
Let's assume all these 100 people go to join the numbers in the prisons. That will be exacerbating the conditions of our people.
You know, I know you are in the courts and you know that some of these things, when it comes to the education of justice in this country, it's never been fair. There are lots of people who should not be in our prisons, so they congest our prisons. Make way for those who need to be there, and those who don't have to be there, let them go home. I think it's a systematic problem that needs to be solved. That is, for me, just an excuse. That it is congested already, we can't afford to take all these people there. That is a very flimsy excuse. It's as if we don't know what to do with people. So that means that if you now arrest a Ghanaian who has gone to steal plantain, they will not find a police cell to put that person. You go to the community and see what is happening there. You can steal a goat and within a few hours the police will come after you and put you behind bars. If you don't take care, you'll be on remand forever.
The government has also been trying to do something. So for example, Interior Minister again, he's been on a roll himself, and the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. So Interior Minister says that he has ordered the reshuffle of officers and commanders in Galamsey prone areas who have been there for quite a long time. He thinks that when it does so, it will help in the fight because those people may not be easily compromised in the short term. That's if the old guys there were compromised. And after a while, they'll be moved around again. And by the time the Galamseyers try to get access to the person to influence him, if that is a problem, he would have reshuffled them again. Is that a way to go?
You know, that strategy we see is very, very good. It's a very, very good strategy because, see, the challenge we face on the ground, those of us who are in the communities and all that, we realize that communities have become frustrated because it looks like there's some familiarity between the law enforcement agencies and these Galamsey people on the ground. You see the police mount barriers They rather mount the barriers to greet these people, exchange pleasantries, and then they move on. You even see the police move their trucks to the mining site, go and greet them, and then and it becomes a regular thing. But you just see that you even go and make a report at the police station about somebody encroaching on your farm or invading your farm and all of that. They will ask you, please get a taxi, we don't have logistics and all of that. So there's some familiarity that has not really supported the Galamsey fight. So we certainly are in total support of this strategy to really move around the commanders. I think, proud to this, a month ago, we called for the removal of some commanders in the eastern region. And so we totally are in support. Even if for nothing.
What's the status of that? Has that been done?
I think we were there Monday, we were inquiring, and I think that process, even though the order has been given, it's really yet to happen, to see people move around. But once it's become a directive, the IGP has been asked to do that, we're expecting, and we'll be following up. But so you see, I think that even if for a short time, we get these new commanders in, they are not familiar, and they are given some KPIs. They are expected within 3 months to deal with it, and I don't think any commander will want a bad record on his file, where you were put in charge of dealing with a problem, you couldn't deal with it, and so you have to be moved away. So I think this is a very important strategy, and we need to really, as a matter of urgency, quickly put it into action.
Well, one matter that has also dominated the headlines in terms of this Galamsey fight has to do with the repeal of the LI 2462. But of course, that was what was promised. That was what we were called for. Which encouraged mining in forest reserves, etc. But this government is rather seeking to amend portions of this legislation to take the power away from the president to allow mining in those forest areas. They argue that once the power is taken from the president, it's technical people who assess the things properly before they issue licenses, if they have to issue at all. So it solved the problem somehow. What do you think?
This law, LI 2462, was passed somewhere in 2022. Before the LI came into effect, Ghana's forests were protected so well, even when there was no law specifically saying that, look, don't mine in forest reserves or mine in forest reserves. This LI is supposed to be environmental protection, supposed to be protecting our forest reserve, but rather came to open up. And then I've heard the president or even the people in government or ministers talk about the fact that they are taking away the power of the president to allow for mining in certain areas. See, that power is only going to save just 30 forest reserves in this country. 30 forest reserves. The reason why we are against just amending that particular provision, that is Regulation 3.2. The LI provides a list of prohibited areas in this country where no matter what, you cannot mine. But then goes down to say in 2, says that despite the above, when it comes to GSBAs, and the GSBAs in this country are just 30 of them, the president may allow for it to happen. So now you are saying that let's change that particular clause. You only save 30 forest reserves. That is only 10% of Ghana's entire forest estate. But there are other provisions in the LI. For example, there used to be a policy where you can never mine beyond 2% of the total area of production forest reserves in this country. 2% beyond. Now, with this LI, there is no limit to how much of a forest reserve you can mine. Before, it was just 2%. This LI has removed that limitation from it. But if you amend, you still leave that in there. The president was never the person who was allowing mining to happen. It was the Minerals Commission with the Lands Minister. They grant the concession. So if you save 30 forest reserves, it tells you that, they are telling us that we have 288 forest reserves in this country. Now, if you take away the 30, you have 250. Now, those 250, it means they are not safe.
They are not safe.
So we don't understand why a promise was made to really get rid of this LI. You come, now you have all the power that you can bring about the change that you want. You say, no, I will amend this. They only want to save 30. It's only telling you the rest of the 250, they are going to go full-blown mining. Look, in just from 2022 right up to now, we've had not less than 44 forest reserves seriously under siege from illegal mining. This is just in, I would say, time span of just 5 years. So just imagine what is going to happen to the rest of our forest reserves. If in 10 years to come, we are going to lose some over 100 more forest reserves. If this airline is allowed to stay as it is. Now that they are even talking about Ghana-China Mining Corporation and all of that, and there's also the Gold Board and all of that, look, I don't think we are in safe hands here.
Really?
If this airline doesn't go entirely, so that we bring in a new progressive legislation that protects forests and even specifies what exactly you can do, I don't think we are going to be very successful with saving our forest reserves.
I see. The minister also said they were considering restricting imports of excavators. I mean, excavators are one of the key equipment used in this endeavor. So if it says they are considering restricting the imports, you don't think it's an area we should push so that sees that sees some fruition? There are several strands to addressing this issue, and that would contribute a lot to it. But yes, you stop the import, but there's already a lot of excavators in the system. They talked about tracking and all of that. I'm really worried about the narrative. They say considering, we will do, but what is stopping them already? So that is where the problem is. I really want to see that when they say we are doing this, we are really doing it. We don't have time. We don't have time at all. So yes, it's a good strategy. The minister has been quite active. He's been moving around, talking tough.
Well, he's moving around, but it's all about, they are playing Tom and Jerry with him, unfortunately. He goes to Jamira today, clear 20 excavators from there, miners. The next day or two, they are back to the place. He goes to Anria, clear people from there. The next day or two, the people are back to the place. I mean, so I'm sure he himself, he will feel frustrated. So I think we need to really do when we say we'll do something. Let's do it. That is where the problem. And I'm really expecting that we step up our game. We call these people dangerous terrorists, but somehow we are giving them all the luxury in terms of an opportunity to do whatever they can do. And I'm asking myself, see, where is the intelligence service? We are using the intelligence service to clean Wager Dam areas and all of that, clear the people from there.
Perhaps because the flooding season, the rainy season.
Every district in this country has got BNI operatives. I recall in the previous administration, we were just doing tree planting. I saw an officer there who was not familiar. I asked him, "Excuse me, who are you? What are you doing here?" He said, "We are doing. We've been asked to come and monitor. I'm from BNI." I said, "Really?" He actually showed me his tax, his assignment on his phone. ROCHA Ghana tree planting.
Whoa.
That was the previous. So it tells you that our intelligence team is on the ground. Why are we not using the intelligence services at our disposal to get to the miners, to get to the financiers? If we really want to deal with this matter now, we'll be able to do it. But I guess it's just our own complicity in the matter.
Very well. That was Daryl Boso, Deputy Director of Operations at ROCHA Ghana, passionate about the fight against Galamsey. This is how we conclude today's edition of the